Hi, Justice fans. Today we're talking Chris Brown, the effect of mass incarceration on Trump's election, your rights at the border, and more. Stay with us on Justice is Served.
You are tuned into Black Hollywood Lives. Justice is served.
Oh yes, what a great song. I'm so into this song right now, even though it says it turns me black and blue.
Yeah, it's a little sad, but
Which is why I thought it was perfectly fitting for the introduction of the show today. Hi everyone, welcome to Justice is Served. Thanks for joining us. This is a show where we, three, sometimes four, but today just three, lawyers talk about legal stories in the news for this week. And I am joined today by Yemi, Abayami, and Shaka Smith. Thanks for being here, guys.
absolutely.
And I wish we could keep listening to this song.
I thought you were going to hit that.
Only in my mind.
The engineer before this did an awesome rendition. If he wants to jump in anytime now.
Must be love on the brain.
Yes.
Actually, that was really better even than what he practiced.
Yeah, good
okay.
work.
Sorry about that.
Alrighty. Okay, so let's get into the Chris Brown story. This Chris Brown story has nothing to do with Rihanna, but you know that's where the brain goes when I hear about these Chris Brown beating stories. And
Yes.
we've got, well, another one. He didn't beat up anyone in this story,
Well,
but Karrueche Tran
yeah.
is looking to prevent that.
Yeah, apparently, so she got a restraining order, but she also alleged that during the relationship, he had hit her 2 times, I think threw her down a flight of stairs. So, you know, it looks like his behavior didn't change too much from that 09 incident with Rihanna.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing is that because the Rihanna case is closed, as far as I know, just because she's making these allegations now, nothing's going to happen to him with
Yeah, he's
respect
offered.
to
Yeah,
that case.
I think he had been offered probation and everything.
Yeah,
like that.
so it's over and done with on the Rihanna case.
And
This
they
won't
are-
open it back up.
And there are allegations, but given the history, it seems more likely true than not.
Enough of a threat for a judge to
To
issue
issue the-
a restraining order.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
You laugh so comically.
No, I don't disagree. I mean, apparently he's made threats not only to her but to her friends. So, you know,
And
provided
we've
they
got
can
a
confirm
video of that. But I'm interested to know if you think this video alone would be grounds enough for the restraining order. Let's pick up that conversation on the other side of the video.
Ladies, y'all be complaining about niggas being like stalkers and love with y'all kind of crazy shit and get tired of them. Well, guess what? I'm one of them niggas. If I love you, bitch, ain't nobody gonna have you. I'm gonna make you miserable. I'm gonna chase that nigga out. I'm gonna chase your ass around. And it's done.
Oof, God, that's sick.
And now, I'd seen that video actually on his social media, and I thought it was funny initially because.
You thought it was funny?
Well, yeah. I mean, I didn't think he was
Shaka,
actually.
we need to talk.
I didn't think he was actually stalking people. I thought it was sort of like, if I love you, and everyone's
Right.
Would you ever say that as a
Oh
joke?
yeah, as a funny joke, yeah.
I don't think I wouldn't have
Not
thought
funny.
I wouldn't have
Yeah.
thought anything of this, and I
Yeah.
actually don't think it's super helpful to her case. I mean, yeah, he's saying, "Oh, if I can't have," but that's just
If I can't have you, nobody will.
To me, that's just talk.
And there was- and it
he's
was-
talking about, "Oh, I'm going to
Well,
chase
but
you
in
around,
this-
and I'll chase him around."
And
like,
he was playful, like during the video, but now it goes now to
I'm
more
so
of a.
horrified. I can't believe you thought it was playful.
Well, yeah,
but I
now,
guess.
But now it goes
maybe.
to until you find out he was kind of stalking her.
Yeah.
So now
think
it goes to
the
state
back-
of mind. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the context of knowing what Karrueche or I can't even
Karrueche,
Karrueche has said, that changes the complexion of things. But I think that video on its own isn't.
Yeah.
That's what I
super
thought too.
helpful.
That's what I thought too. That
Yeah.
it's not. If you look at the video and think this got a restraining order issued, it
Oh,
could
no,
look
no,
like
no,
it,
no,
but
no,
it's
no.
not
It's
that.
also the allegations. I'm sure she's got some proof of the what took place or the communications.
And on top of that, I mean, he didn't really threaten her in the video.
Right.
Yeah.
He's the worst thing he probably said that could be deemed as threatening might be, you know, I'm going to chase you around, but I
Yeah.
don't know that qualifies as assault, really.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm gonna make
that's
you
not,
miserable.
Well, it sounds
It's
like
not-
harassment and
Yeah.
possibly stalking.
I'm
But
going to chase you around.
Well, he said I'm a star. Yeah. So he said that part. He did.
To me, the video isn't as crucial as the fact that he's punching her and telling her friends that he's going to shoot her.
But again, during the times that
yeah,
it looks like
that's what it is. It's a specific threat, like I'm going to shoot her.
Yeah.
That would get this restraining order.
And it looks like for the abuse allegations, nobody was around. It was just them. So it's really her word versus his, and so.
So probably not much will come of that. Because it doesn't look
Well,
like
in terms of, yeah.
she's trying to get him prosecuted for those things.
I think she just used that as a grounds to set up the restraining order.
Yep. All right. Anybody want to guess as to how long we're going to be hearing about this for? You think this
This is
going to be an ongoing thing, or
well,
we're never going to mention it again?
What I wonder is what it's going to do to his career. Like, will this finally be the last? Well, because people have stood by him for a long time.
He punched Rihanna in the face, bloody black and blue. That didn't have an effect on his career at all.
No, it did. Remember, people didn't work with it for a while, and then all of a sudden they started to he kind of piecemealed back in.
Yeah, he had to kind of shut it down for a little bit, but he's back
now
performing on the Grammys. And
But I think a lot of that had to do with this idea of redeemability and the fact that he was young, and now those excuses are out of the window, and I think Hollywood might hold, or at least the music industry might hold him to account this time. So we'll see.
I wish, but I'm not going to hold my breath.
I don't think so. I think he just has a bad boy image now. That's all.
I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, ladies, stay clear of anybody who jokes about if I can't have you, nobody will. There's just my dating tip for the day. I know you didn't ask, but I just thought I should throw that in there. Yikes. Okay, and now we got like a breaking news update.
Yeah.
So I can't remember how long ago it was. My memory is terrible. I don't know if it was weeks or months ago. We covered the story of Dwayne Buck, who was a guy on death row who is claiming that he was there because of ineffective assistance by his counsel, because his counsel offered a witness who said that because he's black, he's more likely to be dangerous in the future, and therefore got him the death penalty.
And this was during the sentencing phase where they're supposed to consider the propensity for violence in the future.
Right.
And so that his own counsel would call this person up to say he's more violent because he's black.
And it's not just that the counsel called him up, but the counsel knew that this
Witness said
expert
that.
was going to say that, and he said that, and he still put him up on the stand, and that's where the trouble lies.
And the expert's basis for this was, black people are a very small percent of the population, but they're overrepresented in prison. Well, it's sort of circular logic.
Right. Okay, so the backstory on it is that the only issue that he went to the Supreme Court over was whether it was legal, basically, for his counsel to allow this kind of I'm black and therefore I'm going to be more dangerous evidence to be used against him to be given the death penalty. Not about whether he was guilty for the underlying crime.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty well agreed upon that he committed a heinous murder.
Yes.
Actually, of
Right.
2 people.
Yeah.
And so the Supreme Court was just looking at, like, are these circumstances so extraordinary that we should allow them to kind of redo the sentencing because of this kind of egregious error on the part of the attorney.
Yeah, and I think the more specific question was because he had missed some procedural hurdles. He didn't raise ineffective assistance of counsel on his first appeals or in his habeas corpus petition. So that was the initial procedural problem. He didn't raise it initially. So the Supreme Court was looking to see if this was so egregious it would overcome those procedural bars.
And it looked like this was going to be a slam dunk because based on the questions that the justices were asking during the proceeding, it seemed even some of the conservative justices like Alito were like, this is really indefensible.
Yeah.
But then we got the decision today, which was a 6-2 decision in
surprising.
Dwayne Buck's favor.
Yeah.
But the surprising part was about the 2 justices who didn't go along
Yeah.
with the majority opinion. I guess it shouldn't be any surprise that it was Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito, but
And
even still...
I haven't read their dissent, but it must be on procedural grounds. It has to be, right? Because certainly...
Who can ever tell?
Because we may lose faith in all of
Who knows?
humanity if
Yeah.
those men did not agree that this kind of sort of flagrant violation of some... I mean, Roberts, the Chief Justice who wrote the opinion, used really great quotes like, we convict people and we sentence them to die based on what they did, not who they are.
Yeah.
And that even if the role of his race was barely mentioned, not given much airtime, is barely covered in the record, that there are small amounts of poisons or small amounts of toxins that can be lethally poisoned. So even if it was a small role in this whole long, and I'm sure it was a very long, arduous record, that's enough to take a look and retry the sentencing phase.
Yeah, and I think there were actually a few other people that the state had actually said, you know what, we messed up by bringing up race into the argument, and so we're going to have these guys resentenced. However,
in the other cases.
Yeah. However, Dwayne Buck did not get that treatment because his own lawyer brought up the race rather than the state attorney.
Which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
So that's like prima facie ineffective assistance of counsel, just egregious on so many levels.
All right, so there's a little bit of justice being served today.
Yeah.
I would say that would be our dose. Actually, I like this story too. And it actually got me thinking, okay, so the Washington State Supreme Court ruled on a case where a florist,
Yeah.
even lawyers are dumb, decided not to, make the flower arrangements for the wedding of 2 gay men. And so the men sued the florist under the state's anti-discriminatory law, and this Washington State Supreme Court just sided with the couple. Anybody surprised by this outcome?
Not in Washington, no.
Yeah, I think that's the important thing. I mean, state law forbids discrimination based on sex.
Yeah.
It's explicit in the statutes
It added
of the
sexual
state.
orientation
yeah.
in 2006.
Oh, sorry, right.
Yeah,
Sexual orientation, right.
And I believe even gender identity. And so I think 19 out of the 50 states have some sort of these laws. And so, yeah, based on the law itself, it was a clear violation.
And then it got me thinking, like, I really, like this, I am normally for it. But then I tried to put myself in the shoes of, like, what if I was seriously religious and seriously held that belief?
It does put you at a crossroads because apparently the plaintiff was friends with the florist.
Yeah, that was really surprising. And she said, hey, I can't do it, but let me refer you to other people who
that can.
Yeah.
And they talked it out, and they spoke, and apparently they hugged, and
And then she gets sued.
But then I'm sure he went home and was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I mean, I think, on the one hand, you yourself, you don't want to have to be forced to do something that you don't want to do. And I think we've seen a lot of these cases taking place in the context of, a bakery providing a cake for a wedding.
Right,
or
that case has still not been heard yet.
Yeah.
Or a florist or a photographer not shooting
Floralist. I still can't believe myself for saying that.
But then I think to the extent that you start allowing people to, discriminate based on sexual orientation because of this, religious, offense to it, that could be then applied to more severe situations. Maybe, not getting flowers from the florist you want isn't as severe as, a hospital then refusing to treat you because you're LGBT or, not getting benefits for your spouse, things like that. I think these cases, you can kind of say, oh, but as a florist, I don't want to have to provide, and it's not a big deal. I shouldn't have to provide it. But I think you also have to think in the context of, kind of bigger, more important situations.
And I sympathize with people in that situation, but I think you have to contemplate serving everyone when you decide to open up a commercial business.
I mean, I frankly don't want to do business with people who don't want to bake cakes or make flower arrangements for gay couples.
I do think if what the service you're being asked to provide is so essential to what the ceremony that you are essentially a part of it, then that would make sense to me.
Assuming there's only one florist in town?
No. I mean, I can't even imagine, like, you're the priest and they say, well, you can't, you can't compel someone to conduct the ceremony. That you're such an essential part of it that you are now involved in it, in the actual ceremony. I don't think there's very many professions where that would happen. So.
I don't know. I wonder in the long run how this one is going to come out in the United States Supreme Court. Usually I'm like, oh yeah, this happened, like Washington, yeah, this one's a no-brainer how this one's going to end up when it goes to the United States Supreme Court. But I'm not so sure. And then I think of all the things that are in the Bible that nobody cares about. Like there's plenty of grocers that are out there that sell, like if you work in a grocery store and they sell pork, but pork is like, eating pork is not in your religion. But I guess when you're working there, they're not making you eat pork. So maybe this is not the same.
But I think, like, say
But when you're, okay, sorry, my logic was, if you're a florist and you serve a gay couple, that doesn't mean that you are being a gay couple. For the sin, I'm totally using air quotes here because I don't buy this. The sin is in same-sex marriage, and so if you're a florist, you're just providing flowers. You're not becoming married to somebody of the same sex.
Well, no, I think as a religious person, though, your thought is if I'm doing anything furthering a sin, if I'm doing anything to facilitate a sin, that is also sinful. So you don't want to facilitate or further a sin, and so that is where they're coming from. And so I get it on that level, but again, if you're not, if I go to you and I say, look, I want these Bibles with our names on it, delivered to the ceremony. Okay, then I could see why you'd say no, and I would think you should probably be protected from having to do that particular service. So if it's a religious thing that you do, and they're asking you to comport that religious thing to some belief that's not part of it, then I can understand that.
Yeah, this one is one of the weird ones where at first I was so like cut and dry on this, like there should not be any discrimination anywhere against any same-sex couple, and then I'm trying to be compassionate to people who are a little or a lot more religious than I am, seeing as how I'm virtually non-existent religious. And I have like a teeny ounce, really teeny tiny ounce of compassion for it. Like not enough where I like now agree with Hobby Lobby, for example, that they don't have to provide contraception because they don't believe in it. Like,
I think if your business is super associated with one particular faith, then maybe that would be, but unless that's the case, unless you're if you're the florist that makes floral arrangements in the shape of a cross, and that's what you do. And now they want, maybe now I would see you have an argument.
Well, I think that raises, an important question in terms of how do you know that this individual who's refusing to provide services isn't using this religious out kind of as a pretext for just a simple desire to discriminate against, based on
that you have to be
sexual
vigilant
orientation.
And there's no way to test
and it's
for
hard
that.
to tell. So you have these like maybe a more cut and dry example where I am the kind of approved florist for the Vatican or whatever. But that's not going to be the case in the vast majority of these cases. And if I can always point to like, well, my religion tells me no, I don't know what the standard is for proving that that religious objection
there is
actually
really no,
true.
because we can't have a religious test.
And that's why you have to go with anti-discrimination statutes.
I mean, legally, what the Washington State Supreme Court did is what the United States Supreme Court has to do.
Yeah.
I believe, because of these points that you're making.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that for the rare person that actually has these religious beliefs, which I would be like, come on,
I don't think
people.
it's a rare person.
Yeah.
You think it's the rare person?
Well, maybe because we're in LA and I don't know of anybody who would refuse to do business with a same-sex couple.
I think there,
Are there a lot in LA that I don't know about?
I mean, maybe not in LA, but I think they're everywhere. I don't want to like call out, certain states or regions of the country, but without a doubt, I think
everything in the middle that I haven't stopped in in a very long
It's
time.
numerous. You still don't hear about these cases because how often does it happen in terms of a same-sex couple goes in and asks for a particular service and then mentions it for their wedding? It doesn't happen too often. So I think, but there are a lot of people I feel like would not serve that community.
And how often are people? It might not come out a lot because how often are people suing on account of it? Maybe if they're discriminated against, they
just go to the next.
Okay,
option.
but
they're sad. And
what about this scenario? A straight couple comes to you. I'm the florist here. You are a straight couple, and you guys are coming to me, and I know you beat your fiance.
Yeah.
That's a sin, right? Beating your fiance away.
Yeah.
But you're a straight couple, so I participate in making the flowers for your wedding. Am I not then also now facilitating a sin because I know you're somebody who beats your wife or girlfriend?
Because the wedding in of itself is not the sin. It's the beating. If you sold hammers and you said, okay, maybe then you say, look, I'm not selling you a hammer because I feel like that's what you're going to use to beat her. So, so I think that would be the distinction for me.
Okay, that's a good one. I thought I was so clever. Not so much. That one was undone pretty quickly. Okay, this was an interesting article I saw in Vanity Fair where Van Jones, who's one of my favorite heroes who emerged from the last election cycle, he's a commentator on CNN, Van Jones has made the case that mass incarceration is really what got Trump elected.
It was a great case that he made, though. He did, yeah.
And I get voter suppression, and I know about mass incarceration, but I hadn't put them together the way that he laid it out.
Well, you lose your voting rights. That's a big thing when you're convicted of a felony.
And some people are like, well, you're a felon. You deserve to have your voting rights removed. But, it is forever.
Yeah, you're 19, you get a felony for marijuana, and now you're 40 and you can't vote and you have things that are affecting your life,
Especially when we know that there are such disparate chances that if you're black, you're going to be convicted of the felony for marijuana versus you're white or something else.
As I said earlier, 6.5% of the population is black, but they represent about 40-50% of the prison population.
I mean, it's a huge difference.
And it's not because they're committing more crimes.
Right. I feel like we have to say that every time, but it is true. The studies show that they don't commit more crimes, that they don't use drugs more often, that they don't sell drugs more often.
And in fact, for drug offenses, that white Americans actually are bigger drug users than black Americans or Hispanics. So
they're essentially just being policed more, and then having to suffer the consequences.
So this is one more reason to, if you have not already seen the documentary 13th, to go watch that because he talks about it in there. And this, for me, is a new reason to be behind this effort to end mass incarceration
and restore voting rights.
Yeah, because I've already thought of gerrymandering is a really crappy thing that legislators have done to make sure that they get to pick their voters rather than the voters picking them. It guarantees them a job. That we need to fix. And these voter ID laws have been popping up ever since part of the Voting Rights Act was sort of decimated a couple of years ago. And those were the efforts I thought that we needed to make on correcting voting rights.
Yeah.
But really giving people back the right to vote after serving their prison sentence, or do you think not making it a part of the punishment in the first place? Like there are some countries where you never lose your voting rights. You can be a convicted murderer and you still have it. So I don't know, where do you think? It should never be taken away, or it should be restored after you're out?
I think there should be a process for restoration. I think that crime, felony, take them away.
But even if it's a drug crime, I think like different kinds of felonies.
And I think as long as there's a reasonable path to restoration, taking that away for a felony is fine. But you need to have a way to get those rights back, because you're going to be affected the rest of your life by the laws.
I certainly think once you have served your time and you've kind of paid your debt to society, there definitely needs to be a
reasonable
path towards
path,
restoration. Exactly, I agree that, because you're still living in society after you have been released, and I think you want to give these kind of newly released members an incentive to to be a part of society, to exercise your right to vote, make the decisions that have an impact on your community and that can positively affect you to continue to do well outside of the prison system. Don't kind of put me into a hole where I
already can't get housing
or
a
no
job.
ability to impact my surroundings. So that's just going to make me behave.
And that leads to that rate of recidivism. And so what I would say, though, I like Van Jones' argument, but I don't want that to be why we do it. We're not doing this because Trump
we
would never
all
have been
love
elected.
Van Jones as much as I do.
Because
No,
we
that's
never
not the
want
reason
Trump
why.
to be elected. It should be because we want people to be able to contribute to society. So great that it would be that would have been a side effect.
And be reintegrated into society as
And
meaningful
I thought
members of society.
Some people might hear us and say, how big of a problem could that really be that it would alter the election? Because that's a pretty big claim to say that we have Trump because of mass incarceration. And so Van Jones pointed out just in the state of Florida, there's hundreds of thousands of felons who cannot vote, and that if they could vote,
because black
generally
people
more
reliably,
likely, it's not fact, but it's likely that
black people reliably vote Democratic. So
right. And so then Florida would be blue instead of the red state that I think it permanently feels like it is. So and Florida's a big state because we had the Gore and Bush problem
in 2000.
In 2000, and just the state of Florida, a couple thousand votes. And in this election, there was really 100,000 votes in 3 states that won it for Trump. So to think that mass incarceration didn't have that big of a role, it could. But there's so many
once
felons.
you take the 3 to 5 million illegals that voted, then
I can't even take you seriously. I can't even laugh at the joke. So silly. But speaking of illegals who were paid to protest, there were 200 plus Inauguration Day protesters that were indicted.
For felonies, felony rioting.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked by this.
Yeah.
Because, in every crowd, it seems, of protesters, there are the nutty ones, and they get, arrested and dealt with. But it usually, as I've seen it, doesn't get felony charges and it's not like a mass thing, like hundreds of people get charged that way. So I was really surprised to see that they were charging this many people with felony.
I was surprised at the number until I read kind of what took place as to why these people were charged, and then it sort of made sense.
They came with crowbars and were throwing things at officers
police,
and damaging property and things like that. So.
And they were also charged with black masking or
black.
I don't know that
block.
They were. It's
black block,
where they were wearing kind of masking their face, wearing all black.
And that made me go, how did they know who they are?
I guess after they were arrested, you snatch that.
Oh yeah.
Snatch it off their head.
Just like that. So if you are convicted of felony rioting, 10 years in prison, a fine of $25,000, and since it's a felony, you forever lose your right to vote.
Yeah.
As of now.
But I think this was the right move in terms of you don't want people admitting violence, especially during like the Inauguration Day. And I think
any day.
Yeah,
we like protest, but peaceful protest,
Exactly.
please.
Yeah.
Right, and I don't know. Maybe the reason for the large number of indictments might have been just because there were absolutely huge and large crowds, kind of protesting.
So really,
Donald
200
Trump.
is a very small
oh,
fraction.
there
Of
were
the
hundreds of
hundreds of
thousands.
thousands
Yeah.
that protested, maybe that number isn't so kind of.
But
yeah.
it just seems like you see this article, 200 people, and it seems
Yeah.
kind of overwhelming. So shortly after he was inaugurated, Donald Trump issued this executive order of this, not calling it a Muslim ban, but it really is, right?
I mean, yeah. Well, he called it a Muslim ban up until very close.
Until he
to
issued it and realized that was unconstitutional. Anyways, I'll try not to get political, but if you want to get political with me, AfterBuzz
that's
TV,
legal
Trump,
and political.
Trump Report Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Okay, back to this. So then it raises the question about what are your rights at the border, even if you're an American citizen, because we are hearing about people with green cards that were getting swept up in this ban. So I thought it would be a good time to do a little classroom legal rights class. God, I really can't think straight right now. Okay, so very generally, can you be stopped at the border? Even let's just assume you're a citizen. Can you be stopped and searched at the border for no reason at all?
Yeah.
The answer is yes.
Okay, so then if you're been listening to the show for a while and you're like, hey, wait a minute, I know there's a Fourth Amendment against unreasonable searches and seizures when there's no probable cause to believe that you've been involved in a crime.
Not at the border.
So what happened to that?
Your constitutional rights stop at the border. Just kidding. No, they don't. But
to a degree, they do.
But the need for reasonable suspicion or probable
Due
cause, as you would
process.
have, if you got stopped on the streets, they just don't apply at the border. The government has a lot of latitude and leeway to, investigate who is coming in the country.
So let's look at the
And this
extent.
is before Trump. These are like vetting procedures that we've had all the time.
This is a good point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's just
but it's
let
a good
that-
time for a refresher,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so just how far can they take it? They can search your person, your body, right? How about your stuff,
Yeah,
They can search your
stuff,
property,
including your phone?
including your phone.
They can go into your phone. They can have you put the code in, or
Yeah,
how about the data on your computer?
Well, so now there's data and then there's information. They can look through documents, they can look through pictures or whatever. But in terms of the data that's behind where you've been or where you visited, looking in the back end of the phone, that is where there's a little bit of a gray area.
And so if you choose to say no, what can they do to you?
Well, they
They
can.
can just make it hard on you.
Yeah.
You basically, because at the end of the day, at least as a citizen, you have the right to enter the country.
Yeah.
It's just a question of whether are they going to detain you and kind of wait for you to break. And
mean,
you can protest all you want and say, no, I'm not going to give you
Yeah.
my phone. No, I'm not going to give you my code. And they could say, okay, well, have a seat in this room right here, and you're sitting
And
in,
we'll just
in that room
we'll
for.
decide.
So it's a
hours.
question of kind of what is it worth to you to protect that
mean, I
And
saw-
they can seize your phone too, and they can seize your electronics,
and
then
they can copy data from
and get it, and you'll get it back
Yeah,
months
that's-
later.
that's weird,
And
but
they've
it
literally
makes sense.
said that kind of the seizure of the electronic information on your phone
Yeah.
is equivalent to the searching your property as well, so your physical property. So much in the same way that they can search your suitcase or your
And
purse,
when
they
they-
can search the contents.
And
of
they're
your
not just
phone.
downloading it there. They're going to take it, and you won't see your phone till months later. So it's
So
not,
is it
yeah,
worth it
yeah,
for you
yeah.
to kind of say no?
Okay, so what if you want to protect your phone or your computer? What can you do?
Not-
Besides not bring
well,
it?
yeah,
Anything?
not bring it, or you can get an international phone just for the trip if you're gonna, that I think that's probably the best way to go. But if you do not want them to search your phone and don't want your phone confiscated, yeah.
Don't bring it. There are some people that have thought you can wipe the phone clean.
Upload it to the cloud and then download
And then,
it again.
yeah, but then if they look at your phone and it's completely empty, like you just walked out of the
Yeah.
You'd be
the
like,
Apple
I
store.
just, I just bought it 2 days ago.
Yeah, but you got the 5. They're gonna be suspicious. They'll be suspicious.
Yeah.
But I think the government's rights are just way more favorable at the border in a different way that they would be if you were actually inside the country.
Yeah. And Shaka, you sent me a really interesting case about a story at the border where somebody was killed at the border.
Yeah, the Supreme
And
Court's now
about whether
considering
that person has any legal rights against basically Border Patrol who killed them.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. So we had Border Patrol. He shoots across at this guy who's in Mexico.
kid,
yeah,
a kid, 15-year-old.
who's in Mexico.
Who is a Mexican
Who's
citizen.
a Mexican citizen,
Yeah.
shoots and kills him, and now they're trying to bring an action against the Border Patrol agent in the United States, and what rights, if any, does this person have? And right now it looks like none.
It's a tough one because this border agent was on the U.S. side. The kid was in Mexico. It's maybe a 60-foot distance between between the agent and the child that was shot. But it just so happened that this officer was in the U.S. The kid was a Mexican in Mexico who doesn't really enjoy constitutional protections in the U.S. And when his family tried to sue in Mexico, they were able to bring a case, but the U.S. wouldn't extradite this officer.
And this is under the Obama administration. They decided to decline to.
Okay, to make that.
Well, yeah, I want people to know. I want people to know that Obama also did not.
This wasn't a Trump. This isn't another Trump failing.
Yeah.
This is a But so the U.S. wouldn't extradite him, so they kind of had no recourse in Mexico, and so the next step was, okay, well, let's see if we have recourse in the United States, and so far the Fifth Circuit doesn't seem to think so.
Yeah. The rights. I mean, but like if I am here and I throw my phone at you and it hits you, I'm still responsible for injuring you, even though I'm here and technically, I guess there could be a border here. So you're responsible for your actions and the damages,
but not at the border. Yeah.
I mean, apparently
not when you're on the other side of the border.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not when the victim is on the other side of the border.
It seems so inhumane.
But it's happened already. We know, what was it, like 40 people have been shot by Border Patrol agents and several have died, but there's been no discipline as far as we can tell against the border agents.
And this is going to be bad because it's going to happen. An American citizen is going to be killed. And
I think
some
American
have already
citizens
been killed.
And I think what makes this a little bit worse is the fact that this officer was shown to have lied when he was doing his debrief. He said he was surrounded by kids that were throwing rocks at him at the time that he shot this child who was 60 feet away, but the cell phone video captured it, and he was not surrounded by kids.
Yeah, the kid was hiding underneath a trailer.
Yeah.
But yeah, Americans have been killed in this way, and there's been no recourse, and the Border Patrol agents haven't been policed.
And one of the things that the Fifth Circuit said was that this border agent, he has qualified immunity, and the questions that they were asking was was a constitutional right violated that this officer should have known of, and the first prong of the test wasn't even met the Fifth Circuit says that the first prong wasn't met, given that this kid had no constitutional rights to be violated in the first place. So that point,
the fact that we don't,
the question was
that
over.
the courts are saying that we don't even recognize the right for a foreigner to live if they're within the vicinity of our border is just nuts to me.
What are the ramifications, though, if they say, okay, you now can sue the government for this kind of act?
Yeah,
whether it's drone strikes, in different countries.
And I think we should take responsibility for that.
Well, I mean, so it's gonna be the most
the
unreliable.
Other than that, if we don't, we're gonna continue to create terrorists. Because if you're an innocent person and your child gets killed, you're by an American drone, if you don't believe that family member is going to grow a deep resentment and hatred for the country that killed their family member when they're totally innocent.
Bogging down the court system and possibly bankrupting the country. If all these people decide to sue the United States over drone strikes, the cases would be ridiculous. It would be
okay. Well, then maybe we should be much more careful about who we kill, or about whether we go to areas that our presence there is not going to make us or them any safer.
We do have international law. We have sanctions.
And human rights treaties.
We have a procedure in place to police, bad drone strikes.
But at the end of the day, a lot of these border agents, even if there are treaties in place, these border agents, they aren't really being held responsible. This child's family is trying to. There is a case. Boumediene v. Bush, where one of the detainees at Guantanamo was trying to get a habeas corpus hearing, and in that case, this person, even though he was in Cuba on foreign grounds, and he was able to bring his case, but the argument there was that the kind of the factual circumstances that Guantanamo Bay is under U.S. control, that kind of shifted the.
It's almost like an embassy.
The analysis, so that made a difference. Whereas in this case, although actually I did read that in this case that area of border protection is administratively controlled by both the U.S. and Mexico. So there is. I mean, we'll see what happens.
I really
there is a question as to
before this story. I had no idea that you really are not even a human at the border. that you and I as citizens could be just shot and killed and nobody
Well,
held to account. I mean, I think
But by
is a
border-
real thing.
If you were in Mexico, probably, yeah. it'd be
And
right.
I
he
used
is
to
a-
go frequently.
But he is a citizen. I mean, the problem was just that the government was not going to extradite this official.
Yeah.
Because the agent would have been held to account in Mexico, but that relies
Yeah.
on the government actually.
So we didn't extradite him.
Providing,
and I think
providing that man.
if American had been shot in Mexican soil by a Border Patrol agent, your family could certainly bring a claim against that agent, in civil court.
It's
So.
just unfortunate that it happened in this, kind of small area in which he didn't enjoy that protection.
I think we're going to hear about these kinds of stories much more frequently because Trump is going to increase the number of Border Patrol agents
And
to
we'll need
ask
to-
them to be more aggressive.
and they're going to be
And we'll-
more militarized. Exactly.
And we'll need them to be hopefully better trained, So, but I don't know. Who knows what the plan
Yeah,
is here?
good luck with that one. Yikes. I mean, because I, at least once a year for most of my life growing up, would drive across the border at Tucson to go to Guaymas, where my mom is from. We would drive all the way. It was like 15, 16-hour drive to get there and spend time with family. But
You were risking your life.
Well, as
yeah,
a,
I didn't need to know.
Well, as a U.S. citizen, though, you could bring a claim because you are a U.S. citizen.
civil
Oh, that
claim.
makes
You're
me feel so
covered
much
by-
better.
You're covered by the Constitution, but this foreigner in a foreign country is not.
But we've heard about cases
But
where even American
Americans
citizens.
Americans were killed at the border, and those Border Patrol agents weren't held to account. So
Yikes. Okay.
probably qualified immunity, but you can bring a
Right,
lawsuit.
so,
but
it's not on the same ground.
This doesn't
Yeah.
make me feel any better. Okay, people. I mean, I think it's generally a good idea to take responsibility, even more so than you totally have to, for individuals and for a country. So
Well-
maybe we don't have to take responsibility for things at the border, but when you kill somebody at the border, come on. You have to give them some sense of justice. Otherwise, you are going to just... I mean, whatever you believe in, bad karma, hatred, you're making us less safe when you have more people around the world hating us.
But
It just doesn't make logical
You do have
sense.
to consider the practicalities of allowing foreign people to sue, though, based on
For death?
Yeah, you do have
For
to.
death.
We don't. Other countries don't allow. If
and-
we were to allow it, it
Well,
would
we
be
need
so,
to be better because we are the greatest country
but
on this planet,
it
Shaka.
would bankrupt the. It would if we paid like $1 million to everyone who was ever erroneously killed.
I'm
by
not saying it has to be $1 million, but
100,000
some-
even. It would be. We would bankrupt the country.
Well,
And our
listen,
courts would
we're
be
about to
clogged.
build a wall for $25 billion and you're worried about bankrupting this country?
Well,
I don't think so.
If that happens, but yes.
Oh, I'm getting all worked up now.
Mexico's going to pay
Okay.
for it.
Oh
I
yeah.
think-
What are you talking about?
I think this is probably a good place to leave, even though I hate leaving it off on a bad note. So I'm just going to say, questions, comments, feel free to tweet, comment, like. I'm at Chelsea Galicia.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Yemims.
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat at Shaka Strong.
And don't forget to join us next week for another lively, passionate episode of Justice is Served. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.
From executives Keven Undergaro, Dario Kristen, Tiana Hobson, and the entire BHL staff, we would like to thank you for supporting Black Hollywood Live, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. For questions and comments, contact us. info@blackhollywoodlive.com. Like us on Facebook, tweet us, or Instagram us at BHL Online. And I am the official voice of Black Hollywood Live, Scipio. Instagram me at KingXOBay. Thanks for tuning in.
Hollywood
Redefined.
The views expressed here are those of the host only and do not necessarily reflect the views of BHL or its owners or principals.